How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Forever Arsenal podcast. Last pre-season fixture out of the way. It was a 1-1 draw at Monaco and it's the Community Shield this weekend. As we agreed on the last show, we're going to be starting our predictions this season from the Community Shield fixture against City. So look out for that towards the end of the show. The predictions are back. But we've got a bit of news to discuss. Not only the 1-1 draw with Monaco, what we think of Rice in the 8 and Partey in the 6, and our first glimpse at them together. But a bit of bad news, and I'm sure everyone knows what the bad news is, and that's Jesus has picked up a knee issue, the same knee that he injured last season during the World Cup, which kept him out of action for about 3 months. Seems to be keeping him out of action for a few weeks. Now, Mikel said it's a few weeks, so I've got that Man United fixture in mind at the beginning of September, but with knee issues, weeks tend to drag into months. So I'm just, crossing my fingers, hoping for the best. But here we are to discuss it. Jordan, Lee, James, the four of us, the main four were back. There's a lot of comments from the last show. Happy to see us four back together, and we'll get into comments of the day too. But let's start with the biggest news, and the biggest news is the worst news: Jesus injury. Lee, James, I've spoken to you a bit over the last few days, week. Jordan, let's start with you on this Jesus news because it is quite concerning to say the least.
Yeah, bro, it's a blow. It's a blow. It's the last thing you want on the eve of or the week of before the season starting. Your main striker is going to be out for a few weeks, and what's even more concerning is that it's a reoccurring injury. And I agree with you, as you said, things like knee. When you hear knee and surgery, that doesn't say a couple of weeks to me. That says to me, I'd be surprised if we see him within a month. I'd be surprised if he plays any of the first 4 or 5 games, and that's not great. I personally thought we needed another striker, even with a fit Jesus. I don't think Jesus is a goal scorer. I don't think we have a goal scorer of the level in our squad that I think we need to embark on a Premier League and Champions League campaign. Now, my first instinct was you got to buy. You've now got to go and get a striker. There's no debate. You've got to buy a striker. But whilst I wouldn't be opposed to buying a striker, and I hear this whole it's not a strikers market argument. I don't really believe that. There's strikers out there. You just got to do your work and find the right one. I'm also of the mindset that I'm like, well, we've got Nketiah and we've got Balogun. I've championed Mikel Arteta since he came to the club as a good coach of players. I think we've seen examples of him being a good coach. Go and coach Nketiah. Go and coach Balogun. I don't think the answer is always to buy. I think sometimes you just got to believe that Nketiah and Balogun have some tools there that can be enhanced and can improved upon. Do I think Nketiah or Balogun can be the next Ronaldo or the next Thierry Henry? No. But do I think they could be coached into becoming competent Premier League strikers that can get you 10, 15 goals? Yeah, I do. So although I think the obvious answer is to sign a striker that can compete with your Haalands, your Kanes, your Salahs, and all those guys will be going to war with. A part of me is a bit like, all right, we got Nketiah on a big contract. He's on a big contract, man. Earn that money. So I'm leaning towards Mikel Arteta. Let's see what you're made of. Let's see what you're made of. Now, look, in 3 months' time, I might be here, Turkish, saying, Nketiah's not good enough. We knew he wasn't good enough. He's a squad player. We knew, fine. And I'll hold my hands up. But I'm going to have a little bit of faith. And I think that coaching seems to be, gone out the window. And I just think, buy. You can't always just buy your way out of trouble. I know we're up against City, who are a juggernaut, but sometimes you need to just kind of believe in what you've got and try to improve it.
I hear you, though, but odds are that you won't be naming him come December if we do go into the season this way. But Lee, I haven't even seen a smile from you this morning, so I can imagine how much this news has kind of pissed you off, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's a massive blow. Like it's not now getting someone to cover Jesus now. I'll ask the question: is Balogun good enough to lead Arsenal for the foreseeable future? My answer to that is no. So because Jesus now you can't be relied on now. and I mean that harsh. I know it's harsh and everything like that, but recurrence of the knee injury. Everybody said, "Oh, wait till Jesus comes back." Here we are, 6 months later. Never really seen the best of him once he got injured. Let's be honest. When he came back last season, I thought he'd done fantastically well, looked sharp, but he wasn't at that level he was before he got injured pre-World Cup. Now, again, looked really sharp against Barcelona, and you're thinking, right, this is exciting times for him again. He's broke down again. A few weeks, said that about Saliba, months. I'm worried, you know what I mean? I've actually earmarked for him for the Champions League game at the earliest, which is after, I think, the 16th of September. We've got Everton.
Yeah.
So mid-September, I'm actually looking at, before that, then we play, I think that's after the international break. That's how I'm looking at it. I think the international break's the 10th.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at minimum 6 weeks. Once you've gone under the knife, it's not good. You know what I mean? Like, I understand you can have a little clear up operation that can be done. That when they wash the knee out and all that, and if it is it, then it's 2 weeks. But I think that Mikel was a little bit cautious with that. Never come out and really said what was the matter. I think now, we've got to be looking to replace Jesus permanently, and Jesus be the backup, because I don't think that you're going to get the full shebang out of him no more.
Who's better than Jesus?
That's the problem. That's the
Osimhen.
problem.
Osimhen.
That is the problem that you've got.
So we're going to spend 120 million on Osimhen this summer.
No, we're not.
Depends.
Right.
If a decision is made sooner rather than later, and we can get 25, 30 for Eddie, and we can get 35, 40 for Balogun, that makes up a big chunk of any fee towards the next striker. Maybe not Osimhen, maybe that is unrealistic, not maybe this summer. But there's also, I haven't turned my nose up at Vlahovic. I know it hasn't worked that well for him at Juventus, but maybe that's a cut price offer waiting to happen. He's completely different to Jesus. So I think there is options out there. It might be someone we don't know. That might have to be the way, but it's something I
like Ivan Toney. I wouldn't be against doing that deal and having him ready for January. But the reason I asked the question, guys, is, and I really cut Lee there, is it's all very doom and gloom. The guy's had a pain, and he's had a little surgery or something to try and alleviate some of that. But supposedly he was carrying this pain against Barcelona, and that's the sharpest he's looked in the whole of 2023. Jesus is a top player, guys, and he links everything we're doing. He brings everything together. It's all well and good saying we want a goal scorer. Man City won back-to-back titles without a goal scorer. I know they're Man City. I know they're Pep and all that. Okay, fine. But Jesus is transformative to this team. And it's going to be very, very difficult to find a goal scorer who scores 30 goals a season and brings the best out of Martinelli and Saka as well. So I'm not sure I'm on board with this whole we need to replace him. We need to replace him. One thing I'll say about Arteta and where the pressure is on for him now is he's got quite a few solutions, and I'm with Jordan here on this. Over to you now, because he's got a £65 million Havertz, who he wants to use as a midfielder, but has led the line before. You got Trossard, who came into the team as a false nine, and we won 7 Premier League games in a row, and he looked brilliant in that role. We stopped worrying about the Jesus thing. You got Eddie Nketiah, who he's backed with $100,000 a week contract, and you got Balogun, who scored 20+ league goals in France last year. So there's solution. So figure it out. He should figure it out, and he wants Kudus, who can play as a false nine too. It's disappointing. Of course, it's disappointing, but hopefully it's no more than a month. And when you look at our fixtures, I'm not saying they're easy, but we should be able to figure that. Arteta, with the money he's spent and the players he's backed, to the way I've said, he should be able to figure this out, and hopefully Jesus comes back better than ever. But I think trying to replace Jesus and get someone better who does overall for the team better work, I think that's borderline. I don't want to say impossible, because obviously there's someone, but I think that's so difficult to do.
Sorry to cut you. I agree with what you're saying there. Trossard would be the one that I would put in there. But when I'm looking at it, you know what I mean, over a year, Jesus has been out for 6 months now.
Mm.
That's the worry, you know what I mean? So I'm with you on Jesus. I love Jesus, you know what I do. He's my player and all that. But when you're continually being injured, and when it comes to knee injury and knee surgery, you know, it is a worry. It is an absolute worry. You look at players in the past. You know, Ledley King was a fantastic player for Tottenham. Since, you know what I mean, like career ruined by a knee injury, like, you know, and that's something that I'm worried about with Jesus. I'm worried about not just him. You know what I mean, a couple of players now, the reliability, and when you've got that position, it's so important. Reliability. You know, Ivan Toney's, I think, a fantastic shout, but he you know. You're saying that we'll go and get him, but we can't get him until January.
Yeah,
at the earliest. And like it's like here we are, another year, another season going. Oh, we've got to rely on get through to a certain amount of time, and we can get Jesus back injured, or we can get another striker and all that. I just think now that listen, it's a gamble. I will go for Tony. I'll be honest now. I think I'd even go for him now and get him ready for Jeb, because I just don't think we can rely on Jesus going forward. And I hate to say that because of this injury again. Like, you know what I mean? It was I was excited when I see him against Barcelona, James. I really was. I thought,
yeah, no, so was I.
Look how we played against Barcelona. I think they're a better team than Monaco. I think you said it on your fan camp after the game. We could have had 8 or 9. Could you say that against Monaco? Could you say that against Monaco? You couldn't. Could you say that against Manchester United? Why couldn't you say that against Manchester United? Because Jesus wasn't playing, and that is the problem.
I think I would have gone for Ivan Toney personally 2 months ago. I've said since January I loved Ivan Toney, and I would have made him a priority before he got his ban. And even the ban doesn't bother me. It never has bothered me. I don't know why we didn't go in for him, over the summer. Well, I do know why. I just don't agree with it. You treat him like a January signing, and you treat him as someone that comes in to kind of reinvigorate the back end of the season and the squad and give them that lift. So the Toney thing for me would have been a priority at the start of the summer, but that's not going to happen. But as James says, if I'm Edu and if I'm the board, I am looking at Arteta and saying, we have really backed you financially. We can't always just give you 100 million to solve problems. You now have to make this work. It's unfortunate. Every team this year will get injuries. It's unfortunate that our main striker is out at the start of the season. But I just don't. The fan base, I think, would lean toward what Lee said and say, look, you can't start the season with Nketiah as your main striker. I get that. But I just think solving the problem with £100 million buyers is not sustainable. And then just to and I just think a bit of coaching and a bit of management is what's required now. But but with Jesus, I think we should be looking for a long-term replacement anyway, not for this summer, but going forward, because these 2 injuries aren't impact injuries. It's not like he's been tackled badly and that's what's caused the injury. It's him. He's obviously got something wrong with his knee, and that for me doesn't bode well for the future.
I think when I look at that, you're right. Obviously, money, we've spent quite a bit of it, especially in comparison to what we used to. But this is where player sales and the way that side of things comes into play. Because yes, we've spent a hell of a lot of money, but since Arteta's come in, I think there's probably one position that he hasn't needed to overhaul, and that's the wings. With Martinelli and Saka, he's needed to, blood them through and be patient and develop. And here we are, 2-3 years later, and we've got 2 of the best wingers in the league, 2 of the best young wingers in Europe. Aside from that, every other position needed an overhaul. When Arteta came in, we had Lacazette, Aubameyang, and we had Eddie in the ranks in terms of striking department. Right now, 3 years on, all we've added to that is a Jesus. And as much as I like Jesus, I think that's a position that we can't afford to leave light heading into a season. I actually like Toney a lot. And if Toney didn't have that ban, that would be the one player I'd be after this summer because of his profile. He knows the league and how different he is to a Jesus, but also retains some of those similarities in terms of bringing other people into play. Not in the same way, indifferent because of his physical presence. But with that whole ban, January, I can't lie, when you're competing against a City who, all right, they don't look like they're going to be the City in terms of squad depth that they was last season, you can't afford to be waiting 4 or 5 months for your backup striker to come in. 'Cause
I think you can, though,
you
Turkish.
could be chased, but then you could be chasing. And I don't want Arsenal to be in a position where we're 10 points, 15 points behind
No.
league
10,
leaders
15,
in January.
10, 15 is obviously you're done. But I just think if we've learned anything over the years of watching Premier League football, and even the last season, you don't have to be top come Christmas. You just have to be in the mix. You just have to be in contention. And I think we've got a squad that is good enough to keep us in contention to January. If you're 10, 15 points off in January, then you're done. You're not making that up in January. No way. But I think we've got a good enough squad that we can be second, third, even fourth, and still be within a chance of winning the title. And that's why I think if you're third, say, and you're 9 points off the top, and then Tony comes in January, imagine what that does for the squad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and just one final point from me on this one. And I know everyone's going to kind of like turn their nose up and everyone's going to be like, no way. Is no one going to entertain the idea of trying to get Lukaku?
I thought you were going to say that.
I mean, I know the narrative is that he's rubbish and he's trouble. I don't necessarily buy into that narrative either. He's proven striker in the Premier League, proven striker in Europe, proven striker for his national team. I'm just saying. I know it's the whole Chelsea thing again, buying from Chelsea, but
the word "proven" is used very loosely.
No, Turkish. Come on, his numbers are actually really, really good overall.
Well,
really, and
the numbers stopped being good 2 years ago now, so it's a big risk to be taken.
2 years ago is not long. That's not a long time ago. 2 seasons.
Yeah, but at his age, it's not like he can afford to be.
No, true. I'm just wondering. There's a proven striker on the market that we could potentially get that knows the league. I'm just putting it out there. We're saying there's not a lot of strikers out there. There's a guy that bangs goals.
And don't listen. A couple of years ago, I would have been all for it. Completely different. But after that Croatia game in the World Cup, after that Champions League final, that killed him.
That killed him.
Has he got it in it? But James, I want to go back to what you said, because you very much came with the angle that, why would we want to replace Jesus? But why look at it like that? Why not look at it the same way maybe we're looking at Raya coming in to compete with Ramsdale? Yes, it's a Jesus injury, but long term, having a Jesus returning from injury and another striker that's competent enough to start week in, week out, that's good for us.
And I'd love that. Don't get me wrong. Like I would. I think with Nketiah and Balogun, and I think we should talk about them a little bit more in a sec as well, because I think I was a little harsh on Nketiah's performance in the Monaco game, actually. And Balogun, clearly there's something there. So don't get me wrong. Those players can offer something, but ultimately, if we could sell them for what I think, if you recoup 70 million for those two, I don't think that's unrealistic. That's 25 plus. My maths is terrible. 45. Yeah,
45.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, 35 each. Yeah.
I think that's doable. If you could do that and then get another striker, you mentioned Vlahovic, you mentioned Tony. Well, yeah, whoever. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Don't get me wrong, because I'd love competition for Jesus, and Jesus is a special player. He can play right and left anyway, so it doesn't mean he'd necessarily lose his spot in the team. I just think we spent a lot of money this summer already, and realistically, that player we want isn't going to cost less than 80, 90 million, realistically.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it being doable. And I think my point is more, the reason I want to get caught up in it is we're looking for a striker who scores goals, but also does everything for the team that Jesus does. I feel like when we say that, it's kind of like, not here on the pod, but like generally it's kind of brushed off like, oh yeah, what they do for the team and all that. But like, we've just seen what the Firminos of this world and Guardiola's system, like we've just seen what the last 4 or 5 years of, okay, now we've had Haaland last year, but in the 4 or 5 years before that, we've seen what false nines and system players can do for a team. So I don't want to just laugh off this idea that actually there might not be anyone out there that's better than Jesus. Genuinely, there might be. I mean, there might be that also has goals. Maybe they don't quite contribute to as much to the team, but they score more goals, whatever. But I just think that's going to be really hard to find. And I think impossible to find in this window.
Why don't you look at it as, because I actually agree with you.
Yeah.
But why don't you look at it as getting better than Eddie and Balogun rather than finding it difficult to get better than Jesus? Because that equally helps us as much.
I'm all for that. But with all due respect, I was hearing things like we need to replace Jesus, and that's what I'm thinking. That's very difficult to do. But yes, get it better than them. Sure, I agree. Look, that might be Kudus. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
We know that Arteta will play Bukayo Saka in all sorts of meaningless friendlies and get everything he can out of him. So that could be Kudus. I was really impressed with the way he led the line at Anfield for Ajax, and he's quite versatile. But I just think that sure, a replacement or another option, or maybe someone who doesn't necessarily make us better, but is just a better second option. I'd definitely love to see that.
Sorry.
Yep.
No, go on. After you.
Well, this is more profile-wise. Do you know why I love Tony, right? Is not because if Tony and Jesus started the same amount of games for Arsenal all season, I'm not 100% convinced Tony would score more goals. I think he would, but I'm not 100%. But I'm convinced he'd be a totally different profile in that I think you could beat the press going over the top to Tony. You could hit the channels. I think you would be a better threat off set pieces. I think you could get the best out of your crosses. I think suddenly you'd get a different dimension out of a Kieran Tierney. I think suddenly Erdegaard's, your Vieiras, your players that can whip a ball into the box would have a different joy in the team. So for that reason, I'd love a Tony as well. Not necessarily because I think he scores a load more goals, because I think it'd be great to be able to throw different problems at different teams. So don't get me wrong. Yes, I do want a striker. This idea of Jesus has had an injury. Now we should maybe look to replace and maybe not rely on him. I just think that's very difficult to do, personally.
And just linking to the whole David Raya possible signing as well. I wonder what, from a squad perspective, it does, knowing that the minute that you're maybe not great or they have an injury, a new player comes in, what that does to squad harmony. I mean, if I'm Arteta, I'm trying to get Odegaard and the rest of the players to try and put their arm around Nketiah and Balogun and say, look, okay, we're not going to sulk. We're not going to go into the market replace any of you. We believe in you guys. We believe in you. Now, that might be just like a nice, wholesome American film where Nketiah scores a winning goal to win the Premier League title and everything's amazing. That might be a dreamland. But I do think there's something about chemistry in the team that is important, and protecting that, I think, is key as well. And I think if you're a squad that know that the minute you have a bad run of form or the minute you're injured, you'll be replaced, something that's ruthless, I think that could be quite corrosive to squad harmony to a degree as well.
Two sides to a coin. That could also boost motivation and the competition for places.
To a certain degree. But if it happens every time to every player, I just think you start thinking, well, hang on a minute. You start getting distracted about what your job is, and like, okay, if I have two bad runs of game, two games where I'm poor in form, will I be then replaced and sold? If I have an injury for a month, am I going to be out? I don't know. There's a fine line between being ruthless and wanting to have the best, but also protecting what you've got and believing in what you've got. It's a fine line. It's a fine line that we've been on the wrong end of for many years. Turkish is ruthless. Right?
Under Wenger, we was way too much this side. Do you know what I mean? And I'd like to be a lot closer to this side where it's like, all right, you don't listen. Take KPMG. If you have a man or woman calling in sick for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, and they bring in someone to replace or cover, and that person's a success, you think that business is not going to look at that person's position and think long term what's best for the company. At the end of the day, we're a football club. We're a massive football club. We're a massive football club that's underachieved for 20 years. I don't really care too much about I care about the players' feelings off the pitch and their family life, and I hope everything is going well. But I don't care too much if they feel aggrieved that, we're buying someone in my position. Tough luck. If you don't like it, you can go to another club that's not going to add competition to your place, and you can play your minutes week in, week out, but not compete at the highest level.
Where's the harmony for Ramsdale? Where's the harmony for Ramsdale? No one's saying, we're worried about that Ramsdale. Now, it's good to bring in competition. Football is competition. Football is ruthlessness. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? Like Jesus, this is now book 2. We've watched Jaws, now we're watching Jaws 2, the Shark's back. You know what I mean? Like there'll be 3 and 4. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're waiting on him from injury again. We're saying, we might get 30, 40 million for Balogun. or Eddie. You know, they're the two guys now that you're asking to step in. And listen, let's get this right about these two players. First of all, Balogun, he's played 10 minutes, if I'm right.
Yeah.
In America, 10 minutes in America, American USA international. Every single American fan I spoke to wanted to see him play. He didn't. Why? Because he's not part of the plans. Let's get that right. He's not part of the plans. Mikel turned around and said, nothing's changed with Balogun. He's not part of the plans, right? Eddie, this is not a bash at Eddie neither, because I'll tell you what, I think he done very, very well to do what he done last season with Jesus. He's a completely different player to Jesus. You know, he scored. People forget he scored the goal against Monaco on Wednesday night, but other people looking, he doesn't bring in the players. What Jesus does is the weakness of Eddie's game. Eddie's not a player that brings in players and does things like that and goes. You know, when I watch Arsenal against Barcelona, seamlessly you've got Trossard and Jesus, whoever, interchanging. I see it. I see it's going smoothly. I don't see it smoothly with Eddie. I think even, you know, if you go back to one of the games, he played him on the wide left because he's trying to do that with him. He's trying to make him like that sort of a player. But he is a little bit more of a goal scoring threat. And I've got no problem with Eddie coming in and doing the job. I just don't see Arsenal as free-flowing with Eddie in the team as Jesus. So for me, there's only one option. There's only one option for the weekend and going forward, and that's Trossard. Now, Trossard wasn't available at the beginning of last season, but was in January. And I think, as James alluded to, done very, very well when he come in there, like, you know. And if you be really honest about it, and let's be really honest about it, when Jesus come back last season, we struggled a little bit as far as form was concerned. No, nothing to do with him. We was playing really, really well until, do you remember the Fulham game? That was a game that Jesus come back in. But if you remember rightly, we lost two players straight after that in Saliba and Tomiyasu. So it was a little bit of a coincidence. But our form was patchy when he come back. So for me, Trossard played. People are turning around going, well, we've got to get Trossard in the side. There's your perfect opportunity now, like, you know. But this is where Mikel's going to come under a little bit of pressure. I'm pretty sure from the haters and all that, because if he does continue to play Eddie and it doesn't work, the pressure comes on. I know that Eddie gets a bit of bad press, but Eddie's not going to lead the line for Arsenal. I'm sorry, he's not going to lead the line for Arsenal over the next 4 or 5 years. He is what he is, a backup striker, and a bloody good one. I'm going to say that, like, you know what I mean? For what he does it well. You know what I mean? Like, did we miss Jesus last season? Yes, but was it fatal? No, when he was in the side. You know what I mean? And he only lost his place because he was injured. So, you know, I'm not bashing up on Eddie here, like, you know what I mean? I just think that what Eddie is what Eddie is. He's a good backup striker for the Arsenal, but he's not the number one and never will be.
You know, what worries me is something that, listen, all fans get right, get wrong. That's part of being fans. You know, you worry, you get excited. Right now, I feel worried because of what you mentioned about Mikel Arteta, Lee. I actually like Mikel Arteta a hell of a lot. And I'm so grateful for what he's done over the last few years because, you know, the connection, the renewed belief, the excitement, bringing Arsenal back to where we should be. But the Havertz signing, 65 mil, and potentially going into the season, not upgrading the plan B second striker option, it's going to be a big risk. It's going to be a big risk. And if I ask you guys the question, if Man City were not to win the league this year, who should? Who should, before game week 1? If it's not Man City winning the league next season, who should it be, James?
Us. They're a bloody big failure if it isn't, because we were so much better than everybody last season. So much better than everybody last season. We spent £200 million at the end of the day. If we are not better than the teams below us at the moment, it's a failure, Turkish. I'm going to be really honest. You know what I mean? We was the second best team in the league by a country mile last season. A country mile. There was no one. Manchester City and Arsenal were well above everybody else. Everybody was out of the Premier League title race in January. I think Man United had a little go at it, like, and then faded. But ultimately, Arsenal were if it wasn't for Manchester City last season, we would have won the league by a counter. I'm sorry, if Manchester City don't win the league this season, personally, I think that they're probably our favourites, and rightly so. Arsenal should still come in second this season, because of what's gone on now. All the teams have improved. I get that. I think Arsenal have not improved at this moment in time. I don't think that what I've seen in pre-season has made me think that they're better than what they were last season. But that's not a criticism of what's going on at this moment in time. Injuries are going to play a big part in all seasons. You know what I mean? Like if Manchester City have 3 or 4 players missing, it can happen. I think if Manchester United lose a couple of players, they're in bother as well. Like I think that can be said with all teams.
Yeah.
But you've got a player in injuries. I'm pretty sure that they're having meetings at the moment. They're gutting what's happened themselves. I actually looked at that. I've actually looked at it twice now. The interview. I don't know if you've saw it. He looked very, very down, Mikel. Very, very. It wasn't slightly about what I've seen in the past. He looked a little bit. It's a kick in the teeth for him as well. I think it is. And I think that we're our solutions. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I really don't. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. The one positive that we've got from it is, as I think James alluded to, we've got winnable games at this moment in time. But if we go off on the season, and because of this and other things that are going on at the moment, we don't beat Forest and then we lose a couple of those games, then we're behind the black ball in September, October. It's going to be very, very hard. Very, very hard with all this Champions League football coming in. And the other thing is, before we I'm going to finish it now, is that if Jesus is out for, say, till 3 or 4, 5, 6 weeks, you've got Eddie playing every single game and Champions League games for 10, 12 weeks. Tough on anybody.
The answer for me to your question, just briefly, Turkish, is Liverpool. It's Liverpool. James and Lee both said Arsenal. I think it's Liverpool. Liverpool have.
Why is that?
Because they've got a better manager, they've got a comparable, arguably better squad, and they have the experience of going toe to toe over 4 years, one of which they won.
They've improved what their weakness was, Jordan.
Say again.
They've improved on their weakness. Their weakness was their midfield last
season. That as well. So if I'm looking at it from a total neutral,
where's our weaknesses?
Lack of experience,
and
that's a big one. I'll give you another one. A goal scorer. Their goalkeeper's better. Their manager's better. Their defender options are comparable, arguably better. I think our midfield is better. I think our midfield is better than their midfield. But they've got Mo Salah, they've got Virgil van Dijk, and they've got Alisson. Let's not forget that. And they've got Jurgen Klopp. I've been doing my top 3 for the last couple of days, and I've put an argument forward for Liverpool winning the title, Arsenal, and City. I can't work out. That'll be the top 3 for me. That'll be the top 3, but I can't work out which order. I really can't. I don't think it's a guarantee that Arsenal finish second behind City if they win the title. I don't. And if I'm a neutral looking at the whole sphere of the league, and I'm saying who for me should come second, for me it's Liverpool.
Okay. I understand that. I think, I think if there was another club to entertain, it should be there at the end of the season. It should be Liverpool, but we'll see. You mentioned midfield. You mentioned we have the better midfield. Obviously, 105 million Declan Rice and a 65 million Havertz has come in this summer. But we got our first glimpse of Partey and Rice together against Monaco. I think something a lot of fans wanted to see. And Rice played in the 8, Partey played in the 6. I just wanted to get people's thoughts on that and whether it's only one game, but whether the strongest 3 going into City will be Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. James, let's start with you.
I think it is our best midfield 3. Because Partey has been brilliant in the last 2 pre-season games against Barca and Monaco. So I don't think, apologies, I don't think Rice wins his place in the Arsenal team as a number 6 over Partey. And also because Havertz is learning this role. I'm not going to get on to him, but I don't think he's ready to sort of start week in, week out. Certainly not in a game like Man City in the Community Shield where we're going to trade possession a lot. We'll have spells where we have the ball. We have spells where they have the ball. If it's Forest at home, maybe I can see where we're going to have more of the ball and Havertz, can maybe do a little bit more. But I'd go Rice in the 8. I thought it was a quietly impressive debut for Rice. Don't get me wrong. I didn't see a £105 million player who's going to transform our season in that one performance. But I did see the things I wanted to see, which was a player who very committed. It's got some drive to him. I really like the couple moments. I mean, I know I'm sort of glorifying couple crosses into the box, but I did like the way he underlapped a couple times in the way Granit Xhaka would have showed that we can kind of just revert to last year's patterns if we need to. I thought he executed all that quite well. But I really liked his first touch that drove us into the box. He nearly scored. If it weren't for a great block, by the way, he gets his first Arsenal goal. So, yeah, that's my solution. Rice in the 8 and Partey in the 6 for now. I actually thought it worked quite well.
I don't. Go on, Lee. Go on.
No, I was just. First of all, I like the name Pro midfield. I like that. Partey, Rice, and Udogan. I like that. Someone put that on Twitter. I quite like that. Pro midfield. I like it for a start. I was impressed with the link-up play that he done with Martinelli. I think that was important. Got in a few times over that, I think that it's the role for him. I really do going forward. I think that Partey, like Jesus, we can't rely on all the time. So if Partey's not fit, then I think what we do is we go like Rice goes into that position and then Havertz comes in that or whoever. I like that much more than what we had last season. Or Jorginho, I think I actually watched it a little bit back the other day. Jorginho, when he came on, played really, really well. It was his pass, I think,
he did.
for Trossard.
And
it goes a little bit under the radar if that's the case. So for me, I'd actually say, right, Rice, this is you now. You're going to play that role all the time. And Partey and Jorginho are going to share that role as a holding one. And you and Havertz are going to share the role of the 8. I did like what I see, of him there. I looked at Rice on Wednesday. He's nowhere near at the fitness levels that he should be. I think he's a week maybe behind or whatever, which is fine because the season hasn't started yet. So I think it's important that he gets another 60, 70, 80 minutes in his legs on Sunday and then he's good to go. I think that we're a little bit behind of last season in fitness-wise. I noticed that. And I'm going to say this now. I'm going to say it now. I don't know about you guys. I have struggled so much this week with sleep and everything like that, energy levels and all that. And I'm pretty sure some of those players must be struggling with that as well. And maybe that's why we didn't get as free-flowing performances as we were. I'm not making excuses. They're professional footballers, blah, blah, blah. But I have struggled this week. So
that's actually a great, Lee, that's a great point,
It is.
Because
it is.
I have felt awful this week. I'm not trying to make, I agree. I'm not trying to make excuses for the players. They'll have all sorts of advice and we've been told how to, get over all the jet lag. But don't get me wrong. I felt terrible this week. I found it really difficult to get into any sort of decent sleeping pattern. I definitely got ill, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know. And all the traveling, you think they had to go DC to New York. Look, of course, they'll be traveling in a very privileged sort of form of transport. They'll have all the comfort in the world. And like I said, they'll have all the help. But it's an interesting point.
It is tiring. I mean, listen, as a fan on the preseason tour, I loved what I might call state hopping. 3 different states in a matter of 10 days. But I think for the team, it's probably better to remain in one area and get your preseason games out of the way. And I know Mikel turned down the opportunity of Australian preseason tour this year because of the time of travel. Mm-hmm. So I think next year, this is something that, might iron itself out. I think we'll find that we're going to do it in one area rather than the state hopping kind of thing. Because it was quite long. Regardless of business class or premier flights and all of this stuff, and, they can lie back and do what they want. It's tiring. It's tiring to say the least. So I do forget about that, the human aspect of things, because we've all felt it coming back from LA last Friday. Jordan.
Oh, go on, Jordan. Sorry.
I'll just be super brief, just on the whole midfield thing. I think James is probably right in that those are probably our three best options going into the first game of the season. But I also agree with Lee that I wouldn't discount Jorginho, bringing him in, to play a role of some form in those first few games as well. I think he's experienced. I think he's been at Arsenal now, albeit half a season. I think there's someone you can trust just to get the season kind of rolling, because I think, unlike last season, guys, it's going to be a very stodgy, slow start to the season. I'm not saying we're going to lose games, but I don't think we're going to count the blocks like we did last year. I think it's going to be a bit of a grind. I also think Declan Rice is going to be a slow burn. I think you might not see the best of Declan Rice until after Christmas. I think he's going to have a really difficult first few months. I've floated on the last pod that it might take him a year. That might be a bit extreme, but I don't think you'll see the best of Declan Rice for about 10, 15 games at least. So I think generally the whole team is going to be, I think we'll win games. I don't think we might not be top or even top three, but I think we'll be okay. But I don't think we're going to have the exciting, free flowing start that we had last season. I think we have to kind of strap in for some difficult games, because I don't think we're quite ready yet. I don't think we're there yet. We've got new players, tweaks to the system, and our midfield, I think, might take a little while before it gets rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I think on that, I agree. I think it might be a slower start. I think that could be true of a lot of teams. I wish I could take credit for this point. Someone on Twitter was sharing the idea that I think this is the first summer in a while where there's actually been some sort of real break for players, because you had obviously Project Restart with the pandemic in 2020 that kind of shortened everything, and then you had the Euros in 2021. What was there in 2022? There was something.
Yeah, there was.
Well, the World Cup in the season meant the season
right.
started.
So that brought everything forward, and then you had the Euros pushing everything back. So that was a bit, so maybe so there's been a little bit more of a break. I was looking at some other clubs' pre-season results. They don't look good.
They're not good.
Liverpool are conceding goals like you wouldn't believe. Man City have only played a handful of games and lost to Atletico Madrid. United have played loads of games, had their squad split across lots of different parts of the States and playing lots of different friendlies. And they've lost quite a few matches. Chelsea, I think, have the most work to do, but have had a decent preseason.
They have.
As well.
Chelsea had a good preseason.
And played a lot of Premier League teams. So, yeah, but they've also got the most work to do to kind of get back to it. And they've lost a lot of players. So, yeah, and Tottenham had a game cancelled. Like, I don't think anyone's had anywhere near an ideal preseason or is anywhere near a position that they'd kind of be happy with going in. But there's still a week to go before the Premier League actually kicks off. It's literally a week today. Arsenal have the benefit of what I call a semi-competitive match against Man City in the Community Shield. And what I'd love to see from this Arsenal team is, if we don't have a blistering start like last season, that's okay. Man City don't really have blistering starts, and Liverpool definitely didn't have a blistering start when they went and battled for the quadruple. But I'd love to see Arsenal pick up results anyway. Just keep getting wins. We're not at our best, but we beat Forest 2-0. We go get a 1-0 at Palace. We win the North London derby. We just put some wins on the board, even though we're not at our best. There might be a draw in there that you think, but okay, but whatever. We're not losing. We keep collecting points and then grow into it as Rice settles, as Kai Havertz understands his role, as Jesus comes back to it, as our back four Zinchenko still to come back. Don't underestimate how important Zinchenko is to this team. And we grow into it and we get better and better, because it is about how you finish. And we were quite ahead of Man City for a lot of it, looking the better team, 5 points clear, 8 points at one point. We were looking the better team, but they finished so strongly. So if we can build momentum at the right time, great. And I know now I'm doing that thing again, the mental gymnastics, the trying to make ourselves feel better about not looking 100%. But that's fine. A lot of great sides haven't looked anywhere near the peak of their powers going into the start of the season. But I believe we have the tools to get by anyway, to build and then get to what Arteta wants us to be long term.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
I agree. I just don't know how it's going to sit if we don't start well because of last season. And, not being ready doesn't worry me as much, because I don't feel like we are ready, because James is right. Who is ready? When you look at the big six clubs, I mean, you could probably say that Man City haven't changed as much as an Arsenal or a Liverpool or a Chelsea and a United, but the doubts about them is where their mind's at. They've just won the treble, they've completed everything, so it'll be interesting to see that side of things for them. But I honestly think that even for Mikel, he's probably going to look for a fast start. This could be the season like the Liverpool season where they ran away with it, and February, March, they pretty much sealed the league title. It could
Well,
be
that is true. And there's a chance to make a statement. We got Man City at the Emirates very early. If we make a really good start and then we blow them away because they've not had the kind of start, and this is why, I know we're going to come on to the Community Shield in a sec, but this is why I'm desperate to win the Community Shield. Not because I think it's the second coming of the Champions League, but because I think we really need to know we can beat City.
Yeah, well, we're on it. We're on the Community Shield now, so let's get into it. I mean, we talked about midfield. We've talked about the Jesus injury. Now we talk about the season opener. That's probably the way to look at it. What did you just call it? Semi-competitive, James?
Semi-competitive.
I'd probably agree with that. You can't take everything from it, but you can take something from it, and it'll be a great way to start the season, considering all of our results against Man City last year went against us. So it'll be good to start this season with 1-4.
Can I cut you quickly? I tried to research yesterday whether
The Community
it's
Shield
considered
winner.
an official trophy. I
Oh.
wanted to know what officially it was, and it's got quite a patchy history because there was a point where, and this is years and years ago, like 60, 70 years ago, there was a point where teams were actually refusing to play in it because they deemed it that unimportant. But obviously in recent years, it's kind of changed slightly. And I think they were saying because ultimately there's not a whole host of teams that are in it, you can't consider it a major trophy. But I've always said that if it were called the Super Cup, it'd be treated a little bit differently. But that's not to almost shit on what it does do, which is raise money for grassroots football and a lot of other things, so I appreciate it's a great event for that. So yeah, I think the answer is it's not a major trophy, but I still like to win it. I always find it funny that the fans have a certain perspective that I understand and probably largely agree with. But when I see teams win it, they do really enjoy it. Like, I'm not even just saying they don't do the whole Emirates Cup, like, hey, smile for the they're popping champagne. They're sort of, they're celebrating with the fans. So I don't know, the players and managers enjoy it, but I couldn't find anything that conclusively made me very excited about it this Sunday.
I was talking to Lee the other day, Lee Judges, and he was adamant that they should include a skills challenge. Lee Judges, he was adamant they should include a skills challenge in the Community Shield. So I don't know. What do you think, Lee?
Listen, I'm very happy as it is. Thank you very much. Like, you know what I mean? So I've always listen. It's an exclusive club to get into, the Community Shield or the Charity Shield. You know what I mean? Like, there's only two teams that can play in it, and you've had to have won the FA Cup or the league.
Hang on a minute, Lee. Sorry, we're in it by default. Come on.
as I was about to say, or you get there through default. Now, we've played teams on default.
Exclusive club.
We have.
We've played teams on default as well. Like, you know what I mean? We've played actually in
Man United. We played Man United
in '98. We played Manchester United.
United in 2002,
and I think Man United in 2002 as well.
Yeah.
So there's an exclusive club, and that exclusive club is you either win the FA Cup or the title, or you come second. Now, like, that's how it is. So, you come third, you've got no chance of getting in. And that is it. Like, so
it really is for the elite.
I remember for the older fans, right? For the younger fans, in 1991, Arsenal won the championship. Tottenham Hotspur won the FA Cup, and we're playing the Community Shield at Wembley. It was a great occasion, 0-0. And we shared the bloody thing, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, I don't get that. I don't get the sharing thing.
Honestly, if you go back in it, I'll come all.
God, it's getting worse.
Did they lift it together?
It was weird. It was absolutely weird. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought, this ain't right. They actually do now add a penalty shootout to it, didn't they? Because you know what, the last time we beat Liverpool, didn't we? With a, you know, we didn't share it. So
We've won our last 4 appearances.
it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't look. I've never actually classed it as winning a trophy, but it's something that you. It's always it's a show. It's a curtain raiser. I used to say, it's a curtain raiser, like, you know. And it was always back in the day a very, very exclusive thing to get into because it was the FA Cup and league winners. And we'll say this as well. We know we mock it and say we ain't meant to be there. There was only 2 teams for a very, 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 very long time that had won the double. The double was not as sought after as you know. In people growing up now have seen Liverpool do it, Manchester United do it, Arsenal do it, Manchester City do it. This was very, very hard to do back in the day. It was only us and Spurs that had done it. So, you know, like this coming second, like, you know, it wasn't as exclusive, you know what I mean, like as it is now, like, you know. So look, it is what it is. But I'm looking forward to it. You know what I mean? It's just sell out at Wembley. One of the biggest things for me about going on Sunday is that the last time we was at Wembley, we couldn't go. When we won the FA Cup and the Community Shield, of course, we wasn't allowed to go to those games. So, you know, we got a chance to go back to Wembley, and I think, you know, big teams play in the Charity Shield or the Community Shield.
Drop me out.
It definitely weakens it that we aren't the FA Cup holders.
Massively.
Man City walk out with their 2 trophies. And we're like, well
Thanks
done,
for turning
guys.
up. Yeah.
Good stuff. With our Emirates Cup, please walk out with the Emirates Cup.
Oh, get off, James.
Brilliant.
Just
the Dubai Super Cup.
Just on the game itself, because I think we should think about a little bit about the match. I want to win the game, not because I care about the Charity Shield per se, but I want to win it for 2 reasons. One, because I think, as James said earlier on, I just think it's important that Arsenal know they can beat Manchester City. Okay, there'll be changes. It won't be ultra competitive, but I do think if we're going to win the league this year, we have to beat Man City at some point. And I know this doesn't count towards the league, but I think at some point this season, we're going to have to beat Manchester City. That was my big frustration about the game 2 years ago at the Emirates, where they beat us in the last minute with the Rodri goal. We were so good that day. We battered them, absolutely battered them. And I just think that if you're going to win this title, there's a high chance at some point you're going to have to beat Manchester City, whether it's home or away. And I think if we can do it in a Charity Shield match, all right, it doesn't count towards the league, but I think that can help us believe that we can beat this team. Yeah. But I think secondly as well, I'm looking to see, I'll get to my prediction when we get started shortly, but I want to see how the Arteta approaches this. What's important for me is that Mikel Arteta gets instilled in his players the mentality of lifting something, whether it's a teapot or the Premier League. For me, I want to win this on Saturday, or is it Sunday? On Sunday, because I want to get the guys used to lifting stuff. I think it's important we win this to get used to it and get into the mindset of lifting trophies or lifting plates in this case. So for me, the Charity Shield per se doesn't mean anything to me. But what are you not laughing at?
You said lift the plate.
It's a plate, isn't it?
I know, but that just shows.
No, but that makes my point. What we lift doesn't really matter. I'll just lift something. Just get used to lifting things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just get in the habit of going into a game and knowing at the end of it, there's a chance of winning something. The significance we can debate, but it's that whole winning mentality that I think comes with games like these. So the game per se, I don't think is important, the Charity Shield, but it's what it represents, I think, for Arsenal, which is why I want to win the game.
And also, which is important to me, is if Man City win it, they've got the whole lot, Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, apart from the League Cup, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't be having that. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to stop them, you know, like, stop them continually keep winning. And I think this is an important game for us for that reason. Like, you know, let's get on the winning trail. I think also going into the season, knowing that we can beat them. I don't think I looked at last season, you know, none of us thought that we could beat them
Yeah.
at their ground. But I tell you what, Man City fans thought that they could beat us and them at the Emirates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference, and that's what we've got to change. And you've got to start somewhere, guys. You've got to start somewhere, chipping away at them, like, you know, Sunday.
Yeah. Bare minimum, I want a competitive game.
Yeah.
I don't want to go roll over and lose it comfortably to Man City. I want us to have a competitive game. I want us to show that we're ready for the season and we're ready to fight with City. And Jordan's right. The game means nothing in terms of the result, but it means something in terms of maybe building the confidence that when we do play City later along the line in a game that is important, that we know we can do it. And I think that's the most.
They beat us 3-0. I don't know if you remember it in the League Cup. Well, I probably all do. It's the worst cup final I've ever been to.
Awful.
Awful. Right. Beat us 3-0. And that was on the Sunday, and then on the Thursday they went and beat us 3-0 at the Emirates. You know what I mean? Like, that's the mentality that they've got, and that's, you know what I mean, that's what we've got to get to. Like, you know what I mean? And by God, we've bridged the gap a little bit from them. But that's what we've got to do. Start taking some chunks out of this club. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we've got to do.
Yeah, James, you was about to say something.
What was I going to say? That if we don't win the game on Sunday, it'd have been 2.5 weeks between the Barcelona win and that Forest game. And that just feels a little too long in pre-season to go without a win. And, you know, it's probably fine. You know, you contextualize it and all, but I just think momentum as well. But I agree with everything that's been said. Let's just show we can beat City. Like I said, I think the only time I saw Pep really not actually go particularly strong was the Leicester one they lost. But other than that, I remember watching the Community Shield last year between Liverpool and Man City when Liverpool won at 3-1. It wasn't a game of great quality at all, but I did see two teams really trying to win it. So I just want us to show a really good intensity. And obviously, the next question is also how we address the Jesus absence. And I don't want to say, and I tweeted this out because I always feel bad when, you know, obviously what we do on AFTV, we give our public opinions, and I went on a fan cam and I described Eddie's performance against Monaco as basically it was good compared to the rest. I was quite condescending. I didn't mean to be. I was basically saying, yeah, everyone was rubbish and he was kind of the standout. I felt bad because I think I did a disservice to his performance. I watched, and I know highlight reels and comps, they only show you the good stuff, but I didn't realize how much good he actually did in that game. And again, nothing that made me think, yeah, start him Sunday. In fact, I still think Trossard should lead the line. But and I mean this in a really good way, he's a real nuisance, Eddie. Like, that's the one. He does pester you and try and turn and win fouls and just like, he doesn't give you time to breathe, and he's got enough pace to just knock it down the line, and he works bloody hard. And I thought his performance against Monaco was actually a lot better than I gave him credit for. But I would go with Trossard just because I know Turkish, you're not fine.
You've been on Twitter, haven't you?
Have you watched it? Have you watched his highlights from the game?
His highlights, I can't believe people are fucking turning that highlight package into something. That highlights package was what Lacazette was doing year in, year out for us, and we was fucking tired of it. A little flick here, a little touch there. But in all honesty, in the 90 minutes, how many shots on goal did he have? 1. And he scored it. Fair enough to him. But it's all good work. Haaland is a nuisance to me. Haaland is someone that doesn't let defenders breathe. If you ask defenders, are you worried about coming up against Eddie Nketiah? With all due respect, I don't think you're going to get yes as the answer.
By nuisance, I just mean like a bit of a pain to deal with. Whereas
I don't think
Haaland's just like a battering ram.
I think Trossard's a bigger pain to deal with because he's both-footed. You don't really know what he's going to...
I agree. And ultimately, Trossard would lead the line for me. I'd go with Trossard, A, because I think he's been one of our form players. B, it gets Martinelli and Trossard in the team. So kind of that's been sort of solved for Arteta a little bit. But I think I have a feeling he will go with Eddie. The other thing people are throwing out there is Havertz. And I've not seen, listen, Havertz hasn't played a minute up front. I've not seen enough in pre-season. But because... You know what has surprised me? We haven't seen a lot of it, but this preseason, he's looked actually fairly decent in the air. And that is one thing. Like, can he just give us a way out or something? But I think that's a little too hopeful and experimental. I'd go with Trossard and I'd go with Rice and Partey again.
I do think he'll go with Eddie, but we'll see.
Yeah, I do
We'll
too.
see what he does. Couple days away, and by your request, we've got predictions back early this season. We've got predictions back for the Community Shield. Let's bring up what the table's looking like at the moment. As always, when we make predictions, we bring up the table. I don't want no hard feelings. You know, people ain't happy with how the table looks. Look at Lee's face.
The worst thing for Lee is that it was all his idea. Let's try and predict all
Yeah.
10 opening fixtures and see who gets the
Wanker.
most right. Yeah, we've got one out of 40 predictions. We've got one right, and Turkish 3 points ahead. So thanks for that, Lee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cheers,
yeah.
cheers, mate.
Next
Stupid
time I'll
idea.
do something like that, just
Stupid game.
remind me of this day.
Well, I still haven't sent him the money. So
Well, he ain't sent me his bank details. and
No,
I'm
me
not gonna-
neither. Me
I'm not
neither.
going to keep. I'm not going to go. Hey, how are you, Turkish? Send me your bank details. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? You send me them, I'll send the money. But other than that, you know.
I'm working on Turkish time. When he says, "Well, where's my money?" Alarm didn't go off.
Don't
It
worry,
will-
my account details are gonna be sent soon. My son needs milk, so
It will be late. It will be late.
£5 incoming. And don't get in the comment section, all you. How much is a pint of milk? All that. Just leave me alone. You can get some bread with that as well.
So how are we doing this? Who starts with the predictions? Is it me because I'm top, or
Yes, of course it's you because you're top. Well, you. Yes, obviously.
yeah? But I don't know. That feels a bit unfair on me. But okay, I'll start.
Unfair.
I'll start.
Well, take your points off and then you can go last. I don't mind.
Man City Community Shield Sunday. 3-1 City.
Oh, that's cheery.
Who's next?
How come James is second?
JA.
Oh, that would do it.
After that, it goes in terms of fan favourites on the pod.
Oh, I see.
Well, that comes on bottom and then Jordan's got the top. I don't believe that. Have you seen the comments this week? Like, you know what I mean?
You can't be right.
Got to be Curtis up there, isn't it? Like, you know, I think even Steroid's got a chance. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest.
Sharoy's got a chance.
Come in, Sharoy. Come in.
I'm flipping it 3-1 Arsenal.
3-1 Arsenal. I hope you're right. I'm there on Sunday. Jordan.
I think City win 2-0.
2-0 City. And
Real range
Lee
here.
judges. You've heard all of our predictions. You're in a privileged position right now.
Yeah. 2-1 Man City.
You
Wow, you all think
disgrace.
we're losing.
You disgrace.
I am not paying out £32.50 next year. I am going a different tactic, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
I'd love to pay out £32.50. Apparently, the divide is £32.50, £32.50, and about £63.80. I'm not quite sure how the maths has been done.
Bro, it was 40, 30, 30 when it was £100 kit. Now it's 110. It's 32.50, 32.50, 45.
Jordan, you get the name. Lee, you get the number. James, you get the kit and boots and season ticket.
Yeah, let's just hope he has Saka or, you know what I mean, on the back. Don't want Trossard or Martinelli.
Nah, man, don't worry
You can
about
have Rice as well. You're happy you can have Rice.
I'm getting Turkish. I'm getting Eddie on the back, spelled E-D-I.
that. ETI.
That's it.
So that's all predictions in. Let's round that up for the people listening on Spotify and all audio platforms.
Can I just
I've
ask
done-
a question?
Of course you can, Jordan.
Sorry, can I cut in a minute there? Would have anybody's prediction been different if Jesus was starting?
No.
No. It would have been tighter for me, yeah.
Yeah, it would have 4-1.
I love you. I'll tell you what, James. Meeting Edu has pushed you into a different light, like, you know, that's all I'm saying, like, you know. He's actually, like, I'm going to be really honest. He slagged off Eddie and he thought, oh, Edu might be watching now. I better change, you know what I mean? Like, I know your game. I know your game, James. I know your game.
Yeah, by the way, Ramsdale's my number one. Edu's the greatest sporting director in world football. Eddie can lead the line. I just think Man City, I hope anyway, are just still enjoying their treble. And are just like turning up with pina coladas on the pitch. Woo!
Well,
And
We'll find out. I don't know if Pep will allow that,
I
but
can't see it. Yeah.
we'll find
I
out.
hope. You
Just
can only
to-
hope, eh?
Just to round off the predictions for the audio listeners, I've gone 3-1 City. James has gone 3-1 Arsenal. Jordan's gone 2-0 City. And Lee Judges has gone 2-1 City. The prediction table currently sits at me first, 3 points. And everyone else has got 0. And that was because of Lee's great idea earlier this preseason to predict the game week 1 fixtures. So here we are.
Yeah, let's predict the group stage Champions League draw as well.
Why not?
It'd be good fun.
FA Cup
Predict the
draw.
Carabao
Could do
Cup
that. Yeah.
draw.
If someone predicted the FA Cup draw, that's 10 points straight in the bag. I can't even lie. If you predict the third round FA Cup draw, the League Cup, oh my god, that would be.
I gotta say,
We
what a
should do that.
terrible no, let's not. What a terrible show that will be. And my 7th prediction
Grimsby
Wrexham
v
versus Southport.
Bournemouth.
Listen,
My,
that-
my
when
8th
I
prediction,
predicted that idea,
Blackburn will be at home to Tottenham.
when-
Oh, no,
when I
I- no,
suggested
I-
it, everybody thought, "Oh, what a good idea!" Like, I mean, that's a very good.
And then when I won it, everyone said, "What a shit idea."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, James, I was just thinking we all just pick one fixture from the FA Cup. Rather
Who
not
Arsenal
the
play?
entire
Who
one.
Arsenal will- We'll just play. Who
Oh,
you,
yeah,
you,
or
you just
Arsenal.
you just
Yeah,
predict
Arsenal.
Arsenal's fixture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
Arsenal going to get?
Yeah.
So you've got a 63 to 1 chance of getting it. And
Bolton
if that son of a gun up
versus-
there gets it, I think
I'm out.
you know what I mean,
I'm done.
out.
I'm
I'm
done.
out of here. Like, Shirai, you're out.
Oh, here's a big one. Cambridge versus Oxford.
That'd be a good one.
God.
Yeah.
My problem with that, it's all a wild card guessing game. It's luck. Like predictions week in, week out. I use my vast depth of knowledge based around Arsenal to win these leagues. With a prediction, it's just too much, man. It's too much.
Lee, it was your idea. Like you
I
know,
know. It was just a bit of fun, but he just makes it into a draw. Like, you know what I mean? It weren't no fun when I looked down. I saw it was a fun game. I looked down. Jordan none, James none, Lee none. Not only did he get it right, he got the bloody fixture right as well. Like, you know what I mean? He got it the right way round. Brentford versus Spurs. You know what I mean? If he'd have got it Spurs versus Brentford, he'd have got a point. Oh no, he has to go and get the whole thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, wanker.
Yeah.
Brentford
And I was
versus
accused.
Spurs, yeah?
And I was accused, right? Like someone said, "Oh, Lee knows them. That's why."
Yeah, do you remember that?
Oh, God, like,
Wait, Brentford versus Spurs is the one you got right. So that's the opening game.
Yeah.
Mm.
So let's just leave them Raya for just one more week, and then
Oh, yeah.
we'll have them.
Oh yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on because we've passed the hour mark. We've got about 3 minutes left for the comments of the day. Make sure you hit the like button. Check if we're on 1,000. If we're not, then make sure you help to get us there. And comments of the day time now. Let's wrap it up. Who wants to go first? Jordan.
I don't have a comment of the day, but what I can imagine what the comments were saying. I've not had a chance to look through them, so apologies. But I can imagine what they've all been talking about. Last night was coming out of Ealing Broadway train station. This bus driver, he was pulling away, stops his bus Turkish, opens his door, talk sport. I was like, yeah. Nah, mate, not even close to Kaka, not even close, and then drives off. So I'm like, first of all, I said it on AFTV, on Talk Sport. Second of all, you can do one. He stops his bus, opens the door, and starts shouting at me. Not even close to Kaka, mate, and then drives off.
Good.
So I just wanted to say, because this is Flex has been on to me. I'm disappointed in people like Flex and you, Turkish, that I really rate. I'll be very quick. I never said that Havertz is as good as Kaka. That's what people wanted to hear. All I said was, I think that Arteta has seen some characteristics in Kaka in Havertz that he sees also in someone like Kaka. That's all I said. And now the internet is interneting. I'm not comparing the two as this idea you can't put Kaka in the same sentence as Havertz. Why not? If there was context, why not?
Because I don't know,
It's context.
You're kind of doubling down on the craziness.
It's not even that controversial.
If I lost about 3-4 stone, then I might have some characteristics like Berbatov. It doesn't.
Oh
mean
no!
No,
Because you're born with characteristics. That's the difference. That's the nuance. You can't just change your body, and Anyway,
Sometimes children, you just got to let sleeping dogs
oh,
lie.
I've said some wild things.
Let it
Lee.
go.
I've said some wild things, granted, but this isn't even that wild. Anyway.
No, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's wild. It's wild.
You know,
You're
leave those wild comments to Talk Sport, please.
And leave the wild takes for Talk Sport. Thank you.
Anyway.
No comment. Okay,
not for me.
I've got two. Then can I have his one? Then
go on, Lee.
And I did hear this on the Podders Errands, but no one picks it up. But if I do it, everybody slags me off. Like, you know what I mean? Turkish.
I knew it.
Spending too much time with Lee. He thinks we've signed Hazard. You know what I mean? And he did say that.
I did. I went back and I said it.
I missed that.
And
but that's hold on. That's different. If you said, I don't know, like Ronaldo or something, or Neymar, because you just got the name wrong. But you said Victorious.
Yeah.
It's like me saying Hazard or I don't know.
Like, he's just got the name wrong. Well, you said Victoria.
You jump on everything you do, like, you know what I mean?
Or Shinchenko.
It was Chinchenko.
No one ever used to pick up on my things anyway. Like, my other one is Lee. As much as I enjoy watching Tactical Show with James and Graham, please don't ever stop the jabs at James. They're absolutely hilarious.
I've got that one too.
Gosh.
He has me in stitches every week, and truly think the chemistry between you four is truly incredible. Massive respect. I love that comment, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've actually had a few people this week come up to me and say, please don't change. Keep having a go at James. And I said, I can't no more. The boy has come good. You know what I mean? I actually watched the Tactical Show the other day. I couldn't sleep. I did actually watch it, like, you know, and it was very insightful.
Oh wow!
I did, like, you know what I mean? What was worrying about it? I was tired before I got watching it. I was wide awake afterwards. I couldn't get to sleep, like, you know what I mean? The informative stuff and all that was fantastic, like, and you know, I'm going to say this now. I did watch it, and Graham, I think he's funny without him knowing that he's funny. You know what I mean? Do you get that? Like, you know what I mean? When he tries to be funny, he ain't funny, but he is funny. It's a really good thing, like that. So,
well, I might as well go next because it's on the same subject. But user name red_9 says Lee confessing his love for Tactical Insight. James has never looked so smug. And I've got another one here that says the chemistry and banter of these four is the reason why this show bangs. A lot of good ones. I really like this Jordan guy. More of him, please. I think that's coming.
I can believe that. Thanks, Bob.
That's from his girlfriend.
More of him, please. That's hilarious.
Last one here from CC says, while questioning Wenger's ways in his twilight years at Arsenal is fair game, what he achieved for Arsenal is unquestionable. His statue is well deserved. He's an Arsenal legend. And that's mine done.
Yeah.
I had the same one as Lee, but there was just this one from Virupak who says, pure respect to Lee. Man swallowed his pride and got schooled by Eddie on the Tactical Insight show with humility. There was a bit more, but I enjoyed that. But yeah, Lee, you know what? As much as I have a little cry after the show, I do enjoy your bullying of me on the Tactical Insight.
No,
it makes for great content.
He said no worries.
It's all right, my pleasure. It will continue. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
I have to say that when we was in, I had to go on to the beer after that. Like, I mean, when they do said, "Oh, I really like that Tactical Show, Lee," I went, "Oh God, that ruined my trip." You know, like, that was it. Like, it was done. Like, and I thought, do you know when you hear things like, "Oh, you ain't going to be the last of this," and I just thought, "Oh no, that's it. It's all doom and gloom from there on." Like, you know what I mean? So,
well, you were the designated driver that night, Lee, of the minivan.
Oh, yeah.
And I, no word of lie, I heard a rumor. Do you remember this, Turk? I had a rumor like 2-3 hours into the night. Lee and Julian have gone. They've just left. They've had enough.
Yeah.
Oh my word, he's taking the comment to heart.
he's packed up on Sunday night.
It was a time when we was now because you are right. Julian, I went to have another drink and Julian said, "I don't remember your driving." I said, "Yeah, but that Tactical Show's doing me in." you know, and he's gone, no, you're going to have to handle it. And then we stood there.
Get me in.
We stood there and there was like rapping going on, and you know, and there was James at the front giving it large. And I said, "Look at him! Look, that's because of that comment. Look, you know what I mean? He's all happy. He's on cloud nine, you know." And Julian said, "Oh, you've got to be happy for him." And I said, "Look, really, you don't have to be happy for him. Like, you know what I mean? You don't have to be happy for him."
What a guy! What a guy!
What a
But
guy.
there you go. So
We
well
wrap it-
done.
We wrap it up here. James,
Yeah.
Lee, Jordan, pleasure as always. We passed the hour mark, hour 15 minutes. Hopefully, we've passed 1,000 likes. People, make sure you add to that. Hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure the notification bell is on. And make sure you're showing love to the rest of our channels. My channel, James has a channel. Lee Judges has a channel. Jordan's on TalkSport. He's on Channel 4. He's all over the gaff. So show some love to our social media platforms and what we're doing aside from AFTV. But make sure you're also showing love here. We're at people. We're back after the Man City game, before game week 1 next week against Forest. Make sure you're here. Love for the love. We're